Somewhere in Tucson, Arizona, on the night of January 31st, 2026, an 84-year-old woman went to sleep in her own home. She never woke up there again.
I wake up every night, in the middle of the night, every night.
That is Savannah Guthrie.
And in the darkness.
You know her face. You see it every weekday morning on the Today Show. What you may not know is what it costs to sit in that chair when your mother is missing, and no one will tell you if she is alive. January 31st, 2026. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, spends the evening at her daughter Annie's home nearby. At 9:48 p.m., her family drops her off at her house in the Catalina foothills, a quiet, affluent suburb north of Tucson, Arizona. That is the last confirmed sighting of Nancy Guthrie by anyone who loves her. Before we go further, you need to understand something about Nancy Guthrie's physical condition, because it is the most chilling detail in this entire case. Her back was severely deteriorated. On a good day, she could walk to the mailbox. Most days, she could not. Savannah Guthrie said it plainly in the interview. At 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera on Nancy Guthrie's front porch went dark. Not a power failure, not a technical glitch. Someone approached the door and tampered with it. The FBI was only able to recover the footage days later using private sector forensic partners. This is the man. Masked, gloved, armed. He knew the camera was there because he went for it first. At 2:28 a.m., 41 minutes after the camera went dark, Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker monitoring app disconnected from the network. Think about what that means. Whoever planned this knew she had a pacemaker, knew there was an app, knew it could be monitored remotely. They planned around her medical devices. This was not a random crime. This was surveillance. This was study. Someone spent time learning how Nancy Guthrie lived before they came for her. When Annie and her husband arrived at the house, the back doors were propped open. Nancy's daily medication still on the counter. Her car still in the driveway. There was no medical emergency. There was no wandering. There was a void where a person used to be. In the days that followed, ransom notes began appearing, sent to media outlets, to law enforcement, to the Guthrie family, multiple notes from multiple sources. And here is where the psychology of this case becomes genuinely disturbing, because most of them were fake. But there is one detail investigators have never explained publicly. The pacemaker app disconnected at 2:28 a.m., 41 minutes after the camera was disabled. That gap, 41 minutes. What was happening inside that house during those 41 minutes? The FBI has not answered that question. The family has not answered it. And every theory about this case depends on what you believe happened in that window. The FBI confirmed that at least one man arrested in California had fabricated a ransom note and sent it to the Guthrie family. He faced 2 felony counts. This is documented. But why does someone do that? Why, in the middle of a real kidnapping of an elderly woman, does a stranger decide to insert himself? Psychologists call this phenomenon case contamination seeking. Individuals who attach themselves to high-profile crimes for attention, validation, or a disturbing sense of power. The Guthrie case attracted them like a signal fire, and every fake note made the real investigation harder. Savannah Guthrie believes 2 of the ransom notes are genuine. The FBI referenced notes that mentioned an Apple Watch and a floodlight, details from inside the home or from prior surveillance. The family responded on video saying they would pay. They never received a response. No contact, no proof of life, no arrangement, just silence. Let's do what the news cannot do. Let's look at the behavioral evidence and ask, what kind of mind plans something like this? Category 1, the proxy predator. This is a documented behavioral profile in FBI literature. The subject does not target the famous person directly. They target what the famous person loves most. It is more powerful. It is harder to protect against. And it forces the public figure into a position of maximum vulnerability, not physical, but psychological. Savannah Guthrie cannot use her platform, her resources, or her public presence to protect her mother. She can only beg. That is exactly what the proxy predator calculates for. Consider the operational knowledge required for this crime. The perpetrator knew the layout of the house, specifically the back doors, which were used as the exit route. They knew the doorbell camera's location and how to disable it. They knew Nancy had a pacemaker and that it connected to an app. They knew her mobility was severely limited. They knew her routine well enough to strike in the window between 9:48 p.m. and when she was dropped off, and 1:47 a.m. when the camera went dark. That is not instinct. That is intelligence gathering. That is weeks, possibly months, of observation. Now here's the behavioral detail that most coverage glosses over. One of the early ransom notes was sent not to the FBI, but to TMZ. Think carefully about that choice. Law enforcement is transactional. You send them a note, you open a negotiation, you risk being traced. But sending a note to a celebrity gossip outlet, that is a person who wants the world to see their power, who wants Savannah Guthrie to know, publicly, that they have her mother. The ransom may be financial, but the performance of the ransom is psychological. This person wants to be watched, and then they went silent. The Guthrie family responded. They said publicly, on camera, "We will pay. We received your message. Come back." And nothing came back. No follow-up. No proof of life. No second contact through the ransom channel. 8 weeks. Silence. From an FBI behavioral standpoint, that silence points toward one of 3 psychological frameworks. And I want you to hold all 3 in your head, because none of them have been ruled out. First, control. The ransom was never about money. It was about making Savannah Guthrie powerless, watching a woman with a national platform reduced to begging on a phone camera. The silence after the family responded is not a breakdown in the plan. It is the plan. Second, obsession. The perpetrator may have a fixation on the Guthrie family that predates this crime by months or years. Obsession-driven crimes frequently involve prolonged surveillance, careful planning, and a target who is specifically chosen, not random. Third, personal grievance. Someone who believes, rightly or wrongly, that the Guthrie family wronged them. A former employee. A business dispute. A personal history no one has yet surfaced publicly. The FBI has not eliminated any of these. Neither should you. That guilt is not irrational. The sheriff himself confirmed the attack appears to have been targeted. Savannah Guthrie's public profile almost certainly made her mother a target. She knows this, and she has to live with it while smiling for a camera every morning on national television. Savannah Guthrie announced she is returning to the Today Show on April 6th. She said, "My joy is my protest." She said she doesn't know if she belongs there anymore, but she is going back anyway, because she says it is part of her purpose, part of how she stays connected to her mother. There is something deeply human and deeply heartbreaking about that decision. To return to the performance of normalcy, because the alternative is a grief too heavy to carry in public. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for 55 days. The FBI reward stands at $100,000. The family reward stands at $1 million. The suspect in that doorbell footage, still unidentified. The ransom notes, still being analyzed. And somewhere in southern Arizona, or beyond it, someone knows exactly what happened on the night of January 31st. Someone is choosing silence. As of today, that choice continues. If you have any information, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. The reward is real, the family is waiting, and if you found this breakdown useful, subscribe to Crime Lens. We do not do rumor, we do not do speculation, we do the work.